In Resident Evil 1, you will play as Chris Redfield, a member of the STARS Alpha team that goes to the forest of Raccoon City to look for Bravo team after they went missing while investigating the recent cannibal murders around the area. Luckily for the team, this search doesn't last too long since they spot Bravo team's helicopter while flying over the woods, but once they get near it, they discover that the only thing remaining is the corpse of its pilot and little more. Or that's what they think, because while investigating the surrounding area, Joseph, the mechanic of Alpha team, gets attacked out of nowhere by what seems to be some dogs? And because of this, Chris and the other members of the team try to go back to their heli, but Brad, the pilot of the team, for some reason leaves them stranded there, so their only option is to run into the mansion that they are able to see in the distance. But the horror is just starting. Once inside the mansion, Chris, Jill and Wesker, which seem to be the only Alpha team members to survive the ordeal, hear a gunshot in another room. So Chris offers to go and investigate while the others secure the area, and after going through some rooms of the mansion, he finds Kenneth, a member of Bravo team, who's being eaten by a human that doesn't look very friendly. Chris, after surviving this encounter, decides to go back to report his findings to Wesker, but when he arrives at the main hall, he discovers that Jill and Wesker are nowhere near, and Jill's gun is on the floor. Chris, without anything else to do, starts exploring the mansion a little bit more, and after encountering more human monsters and picking up a lot of objects that could be useful for something, he discovers a secret basement that has 4 face sculptures and a hanging coffin, and underneath it, Chris finds a key which he uses to open more mansion doors. And after opening some of this, some of that, and fighting some dogs and human monsters, Chris enters a room where he finds Rebecca and Richard, the medic and the communications expert of Bravo team, who need some help since Richard was bitten by a supposedly weird snake. Of course, Chris offers to help them, and after Rebecca explains to him that Umbrella is the biggest pharmaceutical around there and helps him play Moonlight Sonata,
Oh, what was that?
and after facing the snake that Richard was talking about and more exploring, Chris is able to find 4 masks. So he goes back to the face sculptures, and after putting all the masks on their places, the coffin that was hanging drops down, and inside it, there's another human creature. However, this one seems built different. And turns out it is, so Chris has to fight it to death. Of course, he comes out victorious and finds a weird emblem inside the coffin, which he uses to enter the courtyard of the mansion. Here, Chris gets a call from Wesker telling him, or well, anyone that can hear him, that they should stay away from the woods because there's a monster in chains. But of course, this doesn't stop Chris, and he continues with his exploration, and after hearing a weird moan and finding a cabin, which seems to have been recently used, he finally encounters the monster Wesker was talking about, and he gets killed. Okay, no, he actually gets knocked down, and after waking up, he comes face to face with the monster who is, waiting for him? Looking at him? I don't know. The point is that Chris is able to escape from there and goes to another part of the courtyard, where he receives another call, but this time is from Brad, who is like,
This is Brad.
and Chris is like,
This is Chris.
and long story short, Brad is trying to reach a survivor, but Chris's radio is not working. So Chris keeps exploring the courtyard until he comes across some kind of living quarters, where he encounters more human creatures, some hanged people, and no. Chris, after exploring a little bit more of the place, is able to enter a room where he discovers a secret entrance that takes him to what seems to be a research facility, which has a shark tank filled with, sharks. Because of this, Chris has to drain the tank, and after almost getting killed by a big shark, he gets a key and goes back to the living quarters. But nature seems to hate him because he gets attacked by zombies, which he exterminates, and also by the biggest plant ever, which he also destroys. Following all of this, Chris comes across Rebecca once again, and after a short conversation, he also encounters Wesker, who tells Chris that he should go back to the mansion to check the unexplored rooms while he investigates that area. Chris, seeing that Jill is not with him, asks Wesker what happened to her, and Wesker is like,
We got separated.
and since there's no way the guy that's wearing dark glasses during the night is a liar, and since he is still the leader of Alpha Team, Chris is like,
I see.
and goes back to the mansion, but not before receiving another call from Brad, who is still trying to reach any survivor. Once he arrives at the mansion, Chris comes face to face with some bipedal frogs that are even thicker and more dangerous than the other creatures he had to fight. Although Chris is able to survive against them, and after more exploring and more surviving and more looting, Chris gets to finally fight the big snake in such an epic fight that I would rather watch this than a John Wick movie. Chris then finds a key that he uses to gain access to the Spencer's study room, where he finds another emblem and hears a screaming coming from upstairs. So, of course, he goes to investigate and turns out that the person screaming is Rebecca, who is getting attacked by one of the monsters. And after all of this, Chris goes back to the backyard since he was able to get some items, like a power supply, that might be useful there. And here, he discovers a weird hidden entrance behind a waterfall which leads him into a mine. But of course, Chris is not even safe here, and after fighting more creatures running from some boulders and he finds Enrico, the leader of Bravo Team, who for some reason calls Chris a double crosser. Thank God some mysterious figure saves Chris from being shot, and in a last gasp of air, Enrico whispers, Chris then keeps exploring the mine and goes down an elevator where he comes face to face once again with the monster of the cabin, from whom he has to escape because, well, it seems to be immortal or something, and during this escape, Chris ends up in some kind of lair that has a lot of handmade dolls, a bed, a mirror, and also a jewelry box that has part of the emblem that he found in the Spencer's study room. And luckily for Chris, that lair is also connected with the cabin where he almost died, and after escaping once again from that place, he goes back to the mansion. And thanks to the now 2 complete emblems, Chris gains access to the locked room that is behind the stairs of the main hall, which leads him into some kind of crypt where he encounters Wesker and the creature of the cabin fighting. So of course, Chris joins the action, and after pushing some rocks that reveal the insides of a coffin, the creature grabs a skull and kills herself? Oh yeah, for this to make a little bit of sense, I have to tell you that throughout the game, Chris will be finding notes of the Trevor family, who were the first people to visit the mansion because George was the architect and designer of the place. Long story short, the Trevors were invited, the wife and daughter were taken away, the dad tried to find them but he ended up dying inside one of his traps, the wife was then killed, and the daughter became a monster after some experiments with the progenitor virus, which is the virus that seems to have been the catalyst of everything that has been going on. Oh, and she also started looking for her family while snatching the faces of women. So yeah, she was that thing, those faces were from real people, and I guess that was her mother's call. Moving on, Chris then has another talk with Wesker, who tells him to go ahead while he investigates that area. So Chris does that, and he arrives at what seems to be another part of the courtyard, where he finds a secret passage after using the metals that he found inside some books. And wouldn't you know it, it's an underground lab! Here, Chris discovers that the mansion was used by Umbrella as a cover-up so they could test their bioorganic weapons, but something went horribly wrong, and what was supposed to be a controlled research became a nightmare. And that's not all, because while going through some pictures, Chris also finds out that Wesker is not only part of Umbrella, but also a scientist that worked on the creation of the POWs. Oh, and that the creature that was inside the coffin was a Crimson Head. Chris, with all this knowledge, starts looking around the facility, and after fixing the power and coming across more monsters, is able to get into the elevator, which takes him to another section of the lab, where Chris comes face to face with the traitor of Wesker, who tells Chris that the stars were his little piggies and that he had to kill them. Of course, Chris is not very happy to hear this.
You son of a bitch!
And after Wesker tells him that the Tyrant is the ultimate life form and Chris thinks Wesker is doing a stand-up, the Tyrant gets awakened and he takes the life of Wesker by impaling him with his arm. So now Chris has to deal with it. Damn! And after surviving this, he goes back to where he was, and since he doesn't really have anything else to do there, he tries to escape by calling Brad. However, the Tyrant was just playing dead before, and now he's ready for round 2. But you know, Chris at this point is just tired of all this bull, and after Brad throws him a rocket launcher, Chris is finally able to once and for all destroy the creature. But since this game has 6 endings... If If Chris is able to save Rebecca from the Hunter attack, saves Jill from the underground lab, and keeps both of them safe in the last battle against the Tyrant, then Chris, Rebecca, and Jill will escape from there and see the mansion explode while they fade into a beautiful sunset. On the other hand, if Chris saves Rebecca and Jill but isn't able to protect Rebecca from the Tyrant, then everything will play kind of the same except that Chris and Jill will be the only ones escaping and the sunset will change to a rainy day. On the other hand, if Chris saves Rebecca from the Hunter and the Tyrant but he doesn't save Jill, then everything will play out the same except that Chris and Rebecca will be the only ones to escape from there and the sunset will be a little bit brownish. However, if Chris saves Rebecca from the Hunter but he isn't able to protect her from the Tyrant and also doesn't save Jill, then everything will play kind of the same except that Chris will be the only survivor and the day will be rainy. And if Chris doesn't save Rebecca from the Hunter but saves Jill from the labs, then Chris and Jill will escape from there but the mansion won't explode and what seems to be another Tyrant will be looking at the helicopter menacingly. And last but not least, if Chris doesn't save Rebecca nor Jill, then Chris will be the only one to get out of there and the mansion won't explode, so the Tyrant eye will also pop up.